How about we go to my parents' home for Christmas? It all started with my husband's words, and it was also the beginning of the end. My name is Amanda. I'm a 35-year-old homemaker. My husband, Johnson, and I met at work and got married. Right after our wedding, we were blessed with our daughter, Nora, and I quit my job. We finally visited Johnson's parents' home far away for the first time when she turned 6 years old. Hey, is dinner not ready yet? Mil's voice echoed in the room. Sorry, it will be ready soon, I replied, bustling around. Mil sighed deeply. You're so slow, Johnson. How do you put up with such a wife? I know. It's really troubling how slow she is. What the heck? How could you say such a thing? Johnson was just lounging and watching TV. Just as I was about to give Johnson a piece of my mind, Mil dropped another demand on me. Once breakfast is done, you need to clean the yard. After that, organize the storage room, then clean out the outdoor shed. It was Christmas, the one time of the year when you're supposed to relax and take it easy. But still, why was I being worked to the bone? And it was infuriating how Johnson was still just lazing around. By the time I managed to finish the household chores she assigned, I was completely exhausted and couldn't move. I slumped down in the living room. I'm so tired. Who said you could rest? Get moving and make lunch. Mil ordered me. I've been working non-stop, let me rest a bit. Disdain is pretty much like a maid. You think you can just eat for free without working. Keep working. That's not fair. Johnson's family lives in the countryside. The countryside, for better or worse, tends to hold on to old traditions. Disdain is expected to serve the family she married into. I guess old ways of thinking still prevail there. But I think no disdain worked this hard even in the old days. Johnson, can you help out a bit? No way. Johnson curtly replied. Johnson doesn't do any household chores. And at his parents' house, he's even worse, just drinking and lounging around. He had been on the couch all the morning. Hey, I want to go buy some groceries. Okay, go then. Can't you help me? The nearest supermarket from his parents' house is far away. Johnson, who has a driver's license, had been drinking since morning, and I can't drive. Walking was the only option, but a 30-minute walk one way is too much to do alone. So, I asked him at least to help carry groceries, but he just frowned. No way. He answered right away. I felt like pouring beer over his face. It would surely stick and make him uncomfortable. While I was imagining this, Johnson was casually swinging a beer can. I'm drunk. What's with that robot talk? I'm tipsy. So what? I can't go. He didn't intend to help me at all. Okay. Useless. I was frustrated, and then I heard Mil yelling from behind. Is dinner not ready yet? Damn it. I had to go to the supermarket by myself. I finally made it back. The 30-minute walk one way was really tough, especially with my hands full on the way back. I finally made it back, barely able to stand. I slumped down at the entrance, letting out a deep sigh. That was when it happened. Hurry up. Geez, you're so slow just like your mom. Sorry. I heard Mil yelling, and Nora apologizing. I couldn't ignore what I heard. I had to help Nora. Forgetting all my fatigue, I stood up. I dashed towards the kitchen, stepping over Johnson, still lounging on the floor. I think I heard a muffled oof from him, but I ignored it. I headed to the kitchen. And what I saw there was, "What are you doing?" I couldn't help but yell, which made both Mil and Nora turn to look at me. Mom. What, you finally back? Nora seemed relieved. She was crying. Mil sat there in a chair, smug and relaxed. What are you doing? I asked, and Mil snorted in response. Looking over, I saw Nora holding a cutting board. I wondered why. Nora, what are you doing? I asked, and she stumbled over her words to explain. Grandma said she was hungry and told me to cook dinner. She told me to start by cutting potatoes. I can't believe she can't even cut potatoes. What are you teaching her, huh? Like mother, like daughter. I wonder if she's really Johnson's child. I couldn't stand it anymore when she spoke about my daughter like that. She is only 6 years old. Asking such a young child to cook is ridiculous. You can do it by yourself, right? How could you ask your own granddaughter to do such a thing? Mil's face turned bright red as she screeched. Are you asking an old woman like me to work? What a horrible woman. Listen here, a DIL is just like a maid, so you should obey me and work as told. And the maid's daughter is also a maid. Maid. After all, who do you think you're living off of? You're living off the money, my son. You should be respecting my son and me. Stop complaining and work. Shouting this, Mimel stormed out of the kitchen. I was so taken aback by her outburst that I couldn't respond. I was astonished. Mimel went to the living room where my husband was. I could hear their conversation. Your wife is useless, worse than a maid. Well, Nora will be more useful when she grows up a bit more. Just a bit of patience for now. You're suffering too, right? You can always come back home, you know. Divorce. That might be good, but I need a maid, right? Hey, how about we live together? I'm fed up with my current job anyway. Letting her work and me living a leisurely country life doesn't sound too bad. What did Johnson just say? I was horrified by his terrifying suggestion. That sounds nice. Mimel agreed, and I just stood there, frozen. Clenching my fists, I felt a gentle warmth overlap my hand. Mom. It was Nora. I slowly looked at her face. She looked up at me with a worried expression. I crouched down to her level and spoke gently. Hey Nora. Yes. Do you like Dad? She didn't answer right away. I knew she wouldn't. Johnson was indifferent to parenting. He didn't talk much with Nora or me when he got home from work, just lounges on the sofa watching TV or messing with his phone. On weekends, he went out drinking and came home late. He also used to drink at home until late at night. He was always hangover the next day. On holidays, he either lounged at home or went out with friends. We hardly ever went out as a family. I couldn't remember when was the last time we had a family trip. It was probably ages ago. Johnson probably didn't even know what class Nora was in at kindergarten. What she liked, what she disliked, he knew nothing. He had no interest in her. Johnson probably didn't even know that Nora was starting elementary school next year. It was no wonder she couldn't say she loves her dad. It was, after all, to be expected. So, I asked her another question. Do you like Grandma? I hate her. She answered immediately. I couldn't help but chuckle. Well, it was no surprise after being yelled at like that. Then Nora said something unexpected. Because Grandma is mean to Mom. It's supposed to be a happy Christmas, but Mom, you haven't been able to relax at all, right? Always being told to do this, do that. Grandma is mean. I didn't expect her to say such a thing. Well, it must have been obvious because she was yelling at me so openly. I smiled wryly and asked her an important question. Nora, do you want to live with Grandma? She shook her head no. Do you want Dad around? No. What a straightforward answer. That settled my decision. The next day, Nora and I went out early in the morning. By the time we returned to my in-laws' house, it was already night. Entering the house, Mimel and Johnson were waiting, looking irritated. Finally back, huh? What were you doing? Just something. I evaded my husband's question. Watching me, Mimel spoke. You're not a good wife. Fine, you're officially a maid now. Maid, I'm thirsty. Where's my coffee? She ordered me to make coffee as always. I silently served coffee to the two of them. Johnson reached for his mug, but I quickly snatched it away. Huh? What are you doing? He looked confused, and onto his head, I poured the coffee with all my might. Whoa. What are you doing? Don't worry, it's cooled down. That's not the point. Hey, stop. As Johnson reached out, I deftly dodged his hand and placed the mug down. Hey. How dare you? You're just a maid. Mimel told me, her eyes bulging with anger. Shut up. I'm not your maid or anything like that, I retorted fiercely. Mimel stood up to yell, but I cut her off. What? Asen's wife is not a maid. I'll tell you what, I'm not a maid. I pressed on, leaving Mimel speechless. Mimel was trying to speak, but words didn't come out. I glared at her and leaned in close. Stop. She seemed scared. I leaned in close to her. Our faces were just about 4 inches apart. Listen, there's no system in this world where you can boss a DIL around as much as you like. I want to be a part of your family, but I have no intention of becoming a maid. But I'm your husband's mother. You should obey me. Don't you still get it? Stop being silly. I replied calmly to my mill, who was making no sense. Her face, which was pale a moment ago, became beet red. How dare you talk back to me like that? I don't care. Who do you think you are? I'm your mill. Whatever. I had been patient. I had incredibly patient, but that was it. I couldn't take it anymore. There's a limit to everything. And my patience had finally crumbled under my mill and Johnson's attitude. And what have you done to your own granddaughter? Treating your granddaughter as a maid. Enough with the jokes. As I leaned in closer, my mill's face turned pale again. She looked terrified. She couldn't even talk back to me. After all that high and mighty talk, she collapsed at just a bit of pushback. I was surprised how fragile she was. I pulled back my face, narrowing my eyes in disdain. She shook in fear. I turned to Johnson. Now it's your turn. What? My husband whimpered pathetically. I glared at him sternly. What were you doing when your wife and daughter were being treated like maids? I was playing with my phone. And then? Drinking beer. You should have helped us. I'm sorry. Saying sorry isn't enough. Eek. As I roared like a demon, Johnson let out a pathetic scream. Johnson then hid behind his mother. I couldn't believe how pathetic he was. Frustrated to the point of a headache, I decided to get straight to the point and presented documents. That's enough. Sign this right now. What's this? Johnson peeked out from behind his mother. He was like a baby turtle behind its mother. Reading the documents, his face went pale. Are you divorcing me? I'm divorcing you, and I won't be coming here ever again. At my words, my mill went, what? And Johnson opened his mouth in shock. I waved a paper in front of their eyes. I've already filled out my part. I'll submit it to the office right after the Christmas holiday, so sign this right now. That documents must be fake. How can you have them ready when the offices are closed? Unfortunately for you, divorce documents are available even on holidays. I can even submit them today if I want to. As I showed the documents to him, he shook his head in a near tearful state. No, I don't want a divorce. Is that because you'd be in trouble if I'm not around? Yes. You appreciate having me around to do everything for you? Yes. So, having me as a maid is convenient, and that's why you don't want a divorce? Yes. No, wait, that's not what I mean. You clearly said yes. Eek. Was it déjà vu? I felt like I just scared Johnson into screaming with my angry face a while ago as well. Well, whatever. If he wouldn't agree on getting a divorce, I would have to consult a lawyer. Whether you agree or not, I'm getting a divorce. I've already talked to my parents about it. Hey Nora. Yes, Mom. Are you ready? Yep. I've packed all my stuff. Nora answered. She was holding her bag. Hey, are you going somewhere? I held Nora's bag and my own bag, and I turned to Johnson. Good question. We're going back to my parents' house. What? Hey, stop being silly. You're the one who's being silly. Eek. I'm not. A husband who lets his wife and daughter work like maids is ridiculous. We'll discuss the divorce with a lawyer properly. Bye. I said what I needed to say. With my bag in hand, I started walking towards the entrance with Nora. Johnson desperately followed us. Wait, you can't live without me. At his words, I stopped walking, slowly turned around, causing him to halt too. I stared at him and then asked, have you forgotten everything? Forgotten what? I used to outperform you at work, remember? I quit my job because of the pregnancy, but even then, I was earning more than you do now. Johnson's face turned pale. He must have forgotten, even though we worked at the same place. Such a conveniently selective memory. I was planning to start working again, even though there would be a gap in my resume. My parents said they would love to help me. I'll stay with my parents for a while and gradually return to work. Even if I can turn as much as before, I'm sure I'll manage. I'll definitely make it work. Seeing my determination, Johnson was almost in tears. I'm sorry. I'll change, I swear. Please, just don't divorce me. You had plenty of chances to change and you wasted them all. It's too late for regrets now. With that, I reached for the door. That's when it happened. Wait. My mill, who had been silent until then, called out. Annoyed, I turned around to face her troubled expression. What now? Frowning, I listened as my mill shouted. What about my dinner? Who will cook for me? That's none of my business. I shouted back, and this time, Nora and I really did leave her house behind. We went straight to my parents' house. My parents welcomed us with smiles. What a rough way to spend Christmas, my mother said, inviting us to sit at the table. She made us hot chocolate. With that, I finally felt relieved. What a tough holiday it had been. I hope next year will be more relaxing. I wish that from the bottom of my heart. Afterwards, the divorce proceedings with Johnson, who kept insisting he didn't want a divorce, were complicated, but they eventually went through, considering facts like Nora's refusal to see him. Child support was paid in a lump sum. I demanded so because I couldn't believe he would pay it every month. As a result, the condo we lived in was sold, and Johnson returned to live with his mother. Mom's not doing anything. In fact, she's worse than before. He whined over the phone one day. Apparently, the neighbors had seen how I was treated, and the news of the divorce spread quickly through the small-town grapevine. As a result, my former mill is now scorned by the neighbors. It's no surprise. Calling a DIL a maid is unacceptable, even in a rural area. Such anachronistic thinking. Now mostly shut herself in at home, my former mill took her frustration out on Johnson, treating him like a servant. He complained over the phone that they'd been arguing every day. I didn't care about that at all, though. I was just going to tell him that I received the child support payment and then end the call. You deserve it, I said coldly. I could imagine Johnson crying on the other end. Please help me. I'm Nora's dad, and my mom is still Nora's grandma. Smiling to myself, unseen by him, I responded, I'm drunk. Why are you talking like a robot? I'm tipsy. Hey. I can't go. Hey, I said I was sorry. I'll never help you. I shouted and hung up. I immediately blocked him. Laughter is the best medicine. I couldn't stop smiling for a while after that.